Congrats on Whistle. I really enjoyed the film. I love the core conceit of the Aztec Death Whistle and people dying the way they were meant to meet their ends, but it just happens way earlier. It would have been so easy to just make it kind of like a Final Destination type movie, but it feels very unique instead. What about that concept really excited you as a storyteller?
Um, I thought just from like a technical standpoint, the deaths could be a really cool, interesting, different way for a horror film. I think Corin was kind of perfect for it because Corin's background is so, he comes so from art that when I met him on Zoom, he was in his like studio and he was like surrounded by like sculptures and sketches, and I kind of was really sold by that. But also I thought what was really interesting about the script and what really drew me to it was how kind of character driven it was and how beautiful Ellie and Chris's love story was. And there was something quite, I just keep saying the word special, but there's something quite special and quite unique about it. And I just really trusted all the creatives on it. And the script was, the deaths were written so beautifully that, yeah, it was kind of a no brainer.
Yeah, I really loved watching Chris and Ellie's relationship develop over the film. It's really quite sweet, and they embrace each other's perceived flaws, which is really nice to see in the film. How was it working with Sophie to really portray the finer points of that romance?
I mean, she's a really close friend of mine now. I adore her. We're kind of like, it was kind of love at first sight, to be honest with you. We met, we were in this really scary hotel. She like messaged me being like, "This is really scary. Do you want to sleep over?" And we'd never met before. And I was like, "Yeah." And we like had a really fun sleepover. And then we went to work the next day and we had, it was just so, I really don't know how to describe it. It was just so easy. Like we were just like this. We were kind of so enmeshed with each other and so in understanding of each other's brains. And it kind of felt like I'd known her my whole life in like a really weird, kind of beautiful way. And it was so fun playing those characters with her because it was so easy to pretend to be in love with Sophie Nélisse. Do you know what I mean? She's so easy to fall in love with, and she's such a generous scene partner, and she's so kind, and she's so funny, and she's so charming, and she's so everything. So I had the best time working with her.
I think that instant bond you described really shows in the film as well. And one thing I really liked about this film is that at first it almost feels like a young adult drama. And then you're shocked when these super grisly death scenes happen and there's a ton of violence. As an actor, how was it finding a balance between those tones? Because it's quite the unique film.
Um, I think what was really important to Corin and to us was the kind of the central part of it was the characters. And they just happened to be, these weren't horror characters in a horror film. These were characters who happened to be living a horrible situation. But it was important for us not to be playing into the horror aspect too much because these are people living their lives and they just happen to be going through this very terrifying thing. But it was really important to us to like really tell Chris and Ellie's story and to tell Chris's story with her grief and her addiction and really get to like experience Rel's relationship with Grace and like just in general it was important that, like I said earlier, it was so character driven, which made us, I think, as an audience, you get more attached when it's not, when you understand the people and you connect to them in like a human way, as opposed to just kind of throwing you into the horror of it with no like human connection, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, totally. And Chris's fashion is really fun in this film too. She has an edge and a very punk look. Well, what did you like most about Chris's style in this film?
I loved everything about it. I mean, creating her visually was so fun for me. I came into the job with like I had a whole mood board. I was like, "What do we think of this?" And Corin was like, "Yes to this, no to this." Da, da, da. Like he also had he's such a visual person. He had such like a clear yes no thing. And I mean, we were so kind of in sync about things. But it was so cool to get to experiment. And I think she very much expresses herself through her clothes, and you kind of I think there's like a little bit of a journey there where you can see her becoming more confident coming into herself. Like it's like barely noticeable, but she gets like less baggier as the movie goes on, because she's coming into herself. She's not trying to hide in all these layers anymore and in this comfort of like these jackets and these things, until at the end, I don't want to say anything, but you find her and she's changed her hair, she's changed everything, and she's sort of like this new sort of lighter version of herself without losing her punkness and her like edge and her darkness, because her darkness is kind of what makes her her, but just a more sort of confident version of herself. But
Uh,
it was a lot of us drawing from, I for me it was very referential to like 90s like goth grunge vibes, and we had like the nails were a big part of it, like her nails were always chipped, the hair, the whole look. It was really fun.
And my last question for you. I'm a big fan of the Percy Jackson series. It's so exciting that you're going to play Artemis. She's such an iconic figure in Greek mythology. She's great at hunting, but she's also very feminine and like the ideal beauty. How do you even approach playing a literal goddess? Like, how do you even approach that as an actor?
I don't know. I mean, I'm literally, you're calling me from my hotel room for Percy Jackson right now. I'm here filming. I've been here for like a month now. There's kind of, I think, I kind of just trust that casting can see the vision. And so I'm just kind of being like, you know what, put me in whatever you want to put me in. I'm going to do everything in my power to train so I look the part. So I'm like ready to be like completely believable with a bow and arrow. And I need to work on my poise and the way I carry myself and my speech. But there is a certain, it's kind of terrifying when someone's like, now play a god. You're like, oh god, I'm not beautiful enough for that. That's terrifying. I'm a person. But I'm kind of trusting that they have a vision, because they've been so good with casting so far. So I'm like, let's believe what Dan Schultz is saying. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And it's also kind of like playing a comic character because there's so much source material. You got the books, the script, and there's all these classic myths you can dive into. How do you make sure you don't get overwhelmed by all that stuff and don't overthink the role?
Yeah, it's kind of, I think it's the same with every character that I've played. You don't want to, it's obviously different because we do have a lot of source material here, but you want to do the prep so then you can forget about the prep and you can just exist within the character without being overthinking it. And I come from my family is huge, like they're all huge fans of Greek mythology, to the point where I'm named after a Greek myth. So I like kind of, the first thing I did was call my parents and be like, so what do we think of Artemis? So my parents were like, oh, well, this and she's the goddess. We had like a whole conversation about it. And then obviously I did all my research, and I know that we have so many people on set that know everything that they need to know. And I've done all the prep I kind of need to do. So I know that even if I mess up, someone's going to pull me on something if they're like, that doesn't make sense for the character. So it's kind of having trust in everyone around you. And I think it's so important, for me at least as an actor, to do really extensive prep and then forget about it, so I'm not freaking myself out on the day and I'm not like I'm feeling like an imposter, if that makes sense.